Today, very pleased to welcome to the stage Alexandra Poch, Acting Director.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We're now approaching the end of the first day of the IP Enforcement Summit, and I would like to very warmly thank all of our distinguished speakers, and indeed all of you participants here in the room, but also online, for a day of rich and engaging discussions. Allow me to highlight some key points, some key takeaways from these discussions. While a wide range of topics were addressed today, they could essentially be distilled into three main themes that are crucial for IP enforcement. Firstly, the need for more cooperation between all players involved, and we've heard it from various speakers today. Secondly, involving intermediaries in cooperation, notably considering the technological developments, is key for a successful enforcement, especially online. And thirdly, the importance of widely raising awareness of the importance of IP and the consequences of IP infringement is also highly relevant. So let me come back to each of these themes and what role the Observatory network is playing in that regard. First of all, today's discussions highlighted once again how crucial information sharing and cooperation are to tackle IP crime. This cooperation is needed at all levels to avoid loopholes which IP criminals are very, very quick to exploit. We need close cooperation between different enforcement players, so police, customs, prosecutors, market surveillance at every level, national, between member states, between the relevant EU bodies, and of course beyond that, internationally. The reintegration of IP crime in the EU, in the EU's criminal enforcement impact priorities, we've heard a lot about that today, has been a key driver to foster further cooperation through a series of concrete operational projects. This was a focus of today's first panel. A report on the Operation Fake Star published on the 6th of June is a relevant example of what can be achieved with appropriate coordination and targeted efforts. Over 3,900 inspections in 17 countries led to the seizures of counterfeit clothing, footwear, and accessories related to 258 brands with an estimated value of 87 million euro. 378 individuals were arrested as a result of this European-wide operation. The operation had the support of several EU institutions and agencies, such as Europol, Olaf, Frontex, EUIPO, Eurojust, as well as a number of private companies, and as I mentioned, 17 member states' law enforcement authorities were conducting it. EUIPO is very proud to be supporting the actions on IP within EMPACT, within, of course, our strictly non-enforcement operational mandate, so we support. And we are leading on the development of a practical handbook to help law enforcement investigate IP crime, which is full of very concrete examples. We also work with CEPOL on training events and webinars. Indeed, increasing IP knowledge of enforcement authorities was addressed in one of the breakout sessions. Looking to the next impact policy cycle, we need to be mobilizing now. It needs to start now. We're almost halfway. It might seem that it's still early days, but it is not. We need to start thinking ahead to ensure that IP crime remains a priority from 2026 onwards. Of course, all of the actions, the operations that are undertaken now and the results that we get will be key evidence in this regard. In this context, we will be supporting Europol as well in the drafting of a new report next year, highlighting the links between IP crime and other types of crime. And we hope to count on your support with cases for this impact action. Today's second panel addressed the information sharing to break down silos and foster cooperation between all players involved. Here, technology has a key role to play to enable effective and safe information sharing. Let me give you an example. This is a real story. A police officer, we heard this later on at a later stage, a police officer found some goods in one of the member states that he suspected of being counterfeits from a big clothing company. And as he wasn't sure how to confirm whether they were counterfeits or not, he actually went to his local high street and he walked into the shop of that clothing company and addressed the sales staff there and said, "To whom can I speak? Are these products here, right next to me, are they counterfeit or not?" Now, of course, he shouldn't have needed to do it like that. We need to make this type of information available easily, and there are solutions to help address this situation. The IP enforcement portal, IPEP, that you know is a free, secure, and multilingual online tool that establishes the contact or enables right holders and the EU enforcement authorities to exchange information about IPR infringements and allows right holders to file and manage customs applications for actions. And in addition to the function to file the applications fully electronically, we are working on a new mobile version. Our executive director mentioned it already when he opened this morning. A new version of IPEP to facilitate its use by frontline officers to swiftly communicate with rights holders and easily notify detentions. So we're hoping that this enforcement officer in the future will just easily take out his mobile and get the information he seeks. The aim is for all relevant players to use IPEP in not only customs and police, but also, of course, market surveillance and intermediaries. We are now recently launched the possibility for e-commerce platforms to log into IPEP. As IP crime is a global challenge, international aspects will also have to be considered. The second theme I would like to highlight is the need to work with intermediaries. When it comes to IP enforcement online, intermediaries have a central role to play in avoiding the misuse of their services to advertise, sell, and ship illegal products or provide access to pirated digital content. This was addressed in 2 breakout sessions. I'm talking about intermediaries in the broad sense here, not only the traditional e-commerce platforms, but also providers of services on social media, payment services, or transport and logistics. The diversity of intermediaries is reflected amongst the speakers today. The Observatory, with its expert group on cooperation with intermediaries, has produced a number of important discussion papers looking at trends, challenges, and best practices. These papers, together with a series of dedicated stakeholder workshops, are feeding into the ongoing work of the European Commission on the EU Toolbox against counterfeiting. And this summit offers, of course, another unique opportunity for stakeholders to provide input into the toolbox at a relevant moment in time in the decision-making process. We are also in close contact with the European Commission to explore ways of how the EUIPO will support the implementation of the Digital Services Act on IPR-related, enforcement-related aspects, as also mentioned by our Executive Director. This collaboration is explicitly envisaged in the Digital Services Act, and we hope to be able to announce further details in the foreseeable future. A specific issue of fighting live event piracy was the subject of another dedicated breakout session today. Excuse me. Here too, a thorough Observatory discussion paper published in March was highly relevant for the recommendations published by the European Commission on the 4th of May. The Commission invited the EUIPO to take up new tasks in supporting the implementation and monitoring of this recommendation. As announced by our Executive Director, on the 9th and the 10th of October, the EUIPO will host in Alicante a high-level event to launch a new specialized network of administrative authorities with the aim to promote the exchange of information and best practices between all member states on concrete measures to tackle live event piracy. Today, speakers from the International Olympic Committee, very topical with the Paris Olympics coming up in 2024, right holders and law enforcement authorities already discussed practical measures and best practices to address illegal broadcasting of live sports events. The third and final key theme emerging from today's exchanges, which I would like to highlight, is IP awareness. IP enforcement alone will never be enough to solve the problem of IP infringement. While fighting IP crime aims to tackle the supply chain of IPR infringing goods, raising awareness amongst all citizens of the negative consequences of counterfeiting and piracy is key to addressing the demand side. This is why it was important for us to have the consumer perspective reflected today with a keynote from the Malta Competition and Consumer Affairs Authority and a breakout session on raising IP awareness amongst consumers. IP awareness is an area where the EUIPO is also very active, as this is a central pillar of the Observatory's role. A first step is the step to understanding the situation. Our latest IP perception study, published just a couple of days ago, shows that 80% of Europeans agree that counterfeits support criminal organizations and ruin businesses and jobs, 80%. 2 out of 3 also consider fakes a threat to health, safety, and the environment. And 82% of Europeans agree that obtaining digital content through illegal sources entails a risk of harmful practices, scams, or inappropriate content for minors, for example. However, in spite of all of these results we got, still a third of Europeans find it acceptable to buy fakes when they consider the price is right and when they consider the price of the genuine product is too high. For young Europeans, this rises to half. So clearly, there is still some way of awareness raising to go. So once you understand the situation, the next step is raising awareness and shaping behavioral changes, exploring how consumers can be further empowered in the fight against counterfeiting and piracy. Many of the Observatory's ongoing activities aim to do just that. This ranges from pan-European media campaigns to fostering initiatives at national level through IP awareness grants or creating a network of authentic cities. And as was mentioned by the president of the Bulgarian Patent Office, Sofía is an authentic city, together with 3 other Bulgarian cities, part of a growing EU network. Focusing on the next generation is particularly important. So we work on getting IP into the curricula from primary school to higher education. And through the Ideas Powered Youth Initiative, mobilize young creators and influencers from all over Europe on the protection and understanding of intellectual property. In closing, I would like to thank the Bulgarian Patent Office and the European Commission for co-organizing this summit with us. A big thank you also to our speakers and the respective organizations for their high-level engagement and commitment to the global fight against IP infringement. Thank you all again to you everywhere for the active participation today. Enjoy the evening in Sofia and see you tomorrow for the second day of the IP Enforcement Summit. Thank you.